transition team to consider a federal framework for autonomous vehicles. From the experts that I speak to in the industry, that would benefit Tesla more than anyone because they are preparing to roll out fully self-driving vehicles this year. They just revealed their concept for a robo-taxi. So having this kind of less stringent, less state-by-state approach to regulating the AV sector really stands to benefit Elon's company. I think we also are seeing that with some of the other proposals that have kind of started to brew. There was some reporting about the Trump transition team looking to do away with crash data reporting standards, which is another thing that would benefit Tesla more than anyone. And some of the changes to EV policy, while it might seem contradictory because Tesla is an EV maker, they also, I think, feel that they are so far ahead of the other EV makers that it would really just kind of give them even more of a leg up on the competition. So I think his influence is already super apparent even before the next administration has taken office.
I live for the drama, so I'm very interested in the ways that that the interests of these tech leaders and the promises of the Trump campaign will match and will mismatch. For example, we just saw this with the discussion about H-1B visas, where some pressure from Elon might have contributed to Trump walking back some of the immigration points that he ran on, and so I can't wait to see how this turns out.
What's interesting to me is there's kind of this new generation of tech leaders who I think have a pretty open line to the president, but there's also the layer below that, which is you're starting to see more VC, Sand Hill Road coming in, opening their DC shops, more prominent kind of K Street leaders going into that space. There's some continuity here. I think a lot of these figures felt they had an open door either in the first Trump administration or even going way back in the Obama administration, maybe not so much during Biden, but I think we're going to see a kind of change in the personalities there.
Absolutely. One thing that we know the incoming president cares deeply about are tariffs, and that is something that CTA also cares deeply about, and we feel that they are a tax on the American consumer and tech innovators. But curious to hear what you all think. What's that going to look like? What's it going to do?
Anyone feel confident to say what Donald Trump is going to do?
Make your bets now.
My colleague Jeff Stein just reported this week, spoke to 3 people inside the administration who said that that Trump is considering rolling back some of his tariff claims, just because they were so sweeping, and so they're kind of deciding amongst themselves how to deliver on that without shooting themselves and the American businesses in the foot. So, but I think it's important to remember that promises like the 25% tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China, people inside the administration are still saying that he's committed to that, and that, of course, at least in the short term, would cause a pop in the price of consumer electronics.
Yeah, that report was super interesting, and I would imagine was met with a lot of relief by folks in the auto industry. The 25% tariff proposal is really a massive concern for the domestic auto industry because something like 1 in 4 vehicles in the U.S. are, built in Mexico or Canada and brought here. So that's a massive concern. I feel like the reactions that I've seen in the industry range from let's just wait and see, we can't actually predict what's going to happen, this is just a negotiating tactic, to I think I saw, I'm paraphrasing here but not that much, it was an auto executive telling the Wall Street Journal I'd rather be slapped in the face than be hit with these tariffs. So I think the reactions kind of run the gamut and we're all just basically waiting to see.
Yeah, I would also say, I think outside of the realm of tariffs, but within the realm of trade policy, I do think we're going to see the administration continue to take a pretty close look and then maybe expand the technologies where it is taking a close look of basically how we export our trade and our tech and what we bring in. And so that's not specifically tariffs, but you do start to see trade policy. Can we, export advanced weapons tech, that sort of thing. I think those questions come up a lot too in an adjacent space.
Pivoting off of the administration for a minute and focusing more on Congress, what can we expect from the House and Senate this year?
We at Punchbowl News are watching very, very carefully this question of whether we are going to do one big beautiful bill or we are going to do two bills with a lot of domestic priorities, a lot of Trump's domestic priorities and taxes. It sounds like a small difference, but it is everything. It determines how much they can put in, how much dissent they can have in the Republican Congress, what the timing is, how much political capital the administration needs to spend. So we are watching, I think, really closely right now to decide, to figure out what they're going to do, and I think they're figuring it out over the next couple of days too. But like I said, I think once they do figure that out, we're watching Spectrum, we're watching energy, we're watching China tech, and then we are watching those privacy initiatives, the AI initiatives. We are watching telecom, and we are watching all of the appointees that need to be confirmed. So there's a lot going on there.
Since I cover, what's happening on the internet, I am super interested in the ultimate fate of CASA, the Kids Online Safety Act. It's not dead yet, and we could see it, rise again in 2025, as well as Section 230, the law that provides a liability shield for social media companies. Trump has said, conflicting things about Section 230, and politically, both parties have political reasons to target it and ask for it to be scaled back. At the same time, if the Kids Online Safety Act ever goes into effect, it would overwhelm those 230 mandates and make them far less relevant. So we could see a world potentially in 2025 where we get some answers about how responsible tech companies and social media companies will be for the content that appears on their sites, and what the US's philosophy is going to be going forward about protecting kids online.
I definitely will be paying attention. I'm not sure how big of a priority this will be in the grand scope of everything this next Congress wants to achieve, but what types of changes we might see to the Inflation Reduction Act, the bipartisan infrastructure law, if Republicans try to rescind provisions of that. I've heard kind of differing opinions on how likely that is, whether it's just the Trump administration trying to kind of slow walk some of the funding allocations that have come out of those bills, or whether it's more significant activity by Congress to water down those pieces of legislation. I'll be paying attention to that.
Awesome.